Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Intuit Developer Friday morning hangout for March 25th, 2016. I'm your host, David Leary. I'm an Intuit Developer evangelist for QuickBooks Online APIs and our App Store, apps.com. My Twitter handle, if you want to follow me, is at David Leary. Today, we have a special guest. He's the new VP of the Intuit Developer Group, Vinay Pai. I'm going to stop my screen sharing so you can actually see us here. Hi, everybody. I'm David, and we have Vinay over here. Vinay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for attending this morning. I know we have a lot of questions that we've kind of sourced from a bunch of people to ask you. If anybody who's watching and you have a question for Vinay, you can actually ask in the questions panel, and I will read those out and get those over to Vinay this morning. Vinay, first off, can you just introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Vinay Pai. I'm actually leading our Intuit Developer Group. Although I'm new to the role, I'm actually not new to this group or to our platform. So I've been at Intuit about 7 years in a variety of roles and have actually worked with this team over the last 5 years. So I feel new and old at the same time.
Got it, got it. And what are some things you kind of outside of like your work? Like, tell us a bit about yourself outside of the work stuff, so because most of this is going to be about work, right? So, what do you like to do outside?
So I have two very grown kids. My daughter is 21, and she's going to be coming back to the Bay Area and working at a startup up in the city. And my son is a 16 or 17-year-old engineer in training. So, but we're actually at home. We're avid skiers, so. We do ski a lot up in Tahoe, and this year has been a great skiing year. I also run. I run about 80 miles a month, and then I do try to code for fun. But my son has been producing a lot more code than me at home, so he's left me in the dust.
Okay, and so you say, okay, so when you say you code for fun, like what platforms were you coding for?
Well, so a long time ago when my son was 12, I actually taught him to do web apps. So we actually did some stuff on the LAMP stack. And I'm a Java guy by background. JavaScript I'm pretty weak in, but I also do a little iOS for fun. So right now I'm actually trying to learn Swift. Although it's not. It's more of a hobby at this point.
Hobby now. Okay, got it. And so, and that's correct. But you were an engineer by trade, correct?
Oh yeah. So I actually have degrees in computer science and double. I used to be a desktop developer, and then in 2000, I actually joined Sun Microsystems. So I was leading our one of the teams in the Java Enterprise Java platform, and then later on to web services and. I've done some startup stints in a cloud computing company back in 2004, way in the early days of cloud, and then found my way into it through an acquisition in 2009.
Okay, and that was the pay cycle?
Yeah, that was PayCycle. So I had actually, from the cloud computing startup, I actually used to be a basketball coach. I coached third grade Y-ball, and the guy I was coaching with, my son Naveen was, third grade at the time. His son Sam is also in third grade. So Paul and I were coaching together, and he was at PayCycle, and that's how I got the intro to PayCycle. So I moved over to PayCycle, leading their engineering team. And then that was, I still coached Y-ball and then NJB through about 7th or 8th grade. That was when the kids got taller than me and exceeded my coaching ability. So I'll still shoot around with my son.
So the lesson here is like coaching youth sports is really the key to career advancement and getting job opportunities.
Well, it's funny, in the Valley, you hear all sorts of networking stories. A lot of it is true. I was coaching Y-ball with Paul at PayCycle. They were actually moving off WebLogic to Sun Glassfish. The guys they were talking to was my former engineering team. So, a combination of Glassfish, Y-ball, and LinkedIn. That's how I got to PayCycle.
That's awesome. Cool. And so obviously that eventually gets you to Intuit. And so after you got to do it, how'd you get to become the VP of the Intuit Developer Group now?
Yeah, so when I came to Intuit, I was leading our online payroll platform. That was the PayCycle product plus the Intuit team. After a year and a half, I moved over to lead QuickBooks Online. And it was front end and back end. And actually, it was at that time, those of you that have been with us for a while might remember the V2 services. Well, we were actually building V3 services at the time. And that was actually from my engineering team. We shipped those. We actually scaled, QuickBooks. We launched a global, built Harmony, which is a new UI. And then I was later leading as a VP of engineering for our small business offerings, payroll, payments, and QuickBooks. It was actually at the time I met Avi. So Avi had joined a couple of years ago to Intuit, and I was actually his onboarding buddy. So I helped him I showed him the ropes, helped him onboard to Intuit. We actually worked together on a lot of the platform strategy because that was my engineering team building and delivering through the partner platform. And so that's eventually, that's how I found my way to the Intuit Developer Group back in January.
Got it. So at some level, you've really been involved with the Intuit Developer Group indirectly. You've just been you're building APIs for it, we're consuming your stuff, you're working with our team, but you just haven't officially been part of our team until 90 days ago. Cool.
Yeah, really for the last 5 years I've been working.
I think I'm going to try to... I think we have a little bit of delay. I'm going to kind of make sure I pause before I ask another question. Give it a second to catch up. Let's dive in a little bit deeper, maybe. When I say platform, can you define that? What does that mean to you? And then kind of elaborating on that, what is the third-party developer? How do they fit into the QBO platform?
Okay, great. So platform is actually something that's pretty standard, here in Silicon Valley. There are lots of companies that have built a successful product, but also realize that they're not going to be able to build everything, and they need third-party developers. One of the companies I look up to in the space is Salesforce. They have a great CRM product. They opened up their APIs. They let third parties integrate. They created a marketplace for third-party applications, and eventually turned it into a hosting platform. With Force.com. And if you look at QuickBooks, and we've been on this journey, me personally, at least 5 years. When you look at the QuickBooks as a product, we deliver accounting, payroll, and payments, but that's only just part of what a small business uses in their day-to-day. Unlike like when you do consumer tax, you do your taxes once a year and you're done. Small businesses use our product, every month, every week, and there are things that we're not going to be able to do for them. So if you look at certain things around e-commerce, or even as you look globally, we need help from third-party developers to actually kind of round out QuickBooks. And the way we're going to do that is, create APIs that they can integrate into. And this is a path we've been on for, I think, maybe the last 7 or 8 years. But one of the things that we're trying to do is, anything that we write into our databases, through our product, we want to make all of that available through APIs, and make that possible so that way you can actually build on our accounting engine, you can actually integrate directly into the accounting engine, and you have access to all the functionality we publish in our own products.
Got it. And I think I remember Brad Smith at it was a Cinder conference in 2013, really coming out with that as our mantra, right? Anything our developers can do internally, we want our external developers and third parties to be able to do also, which I think is a really good marching in mantra, getting behind that whole concept of an open API and getting that stuff out there. It's exciting. So now that you're 90 days in, what have you learned? What's your big aha moment of being involved in the Intuit Developer Group? What do you think is going to happen in the next 90 days for you?
Okay, so the first kind of ahas in the first 90 days, Brad's vision is still our vision. I think in terms of our execution, we've still got some ways to go, to fully realize that vision. I was at a developer meetup in Sydney, and I've talked to a lot of our partners here in the Bay Area when they've come through, and what I realize is, hello, hey David,
I'm still here.
okay, you're still there. All right. So what I've realized is, we still have some gaps in realizing that vision. The V3 services we have today, there are still some things that you can't get access to. I know my friends at T-Sheets, we've talked a bit about wage item and payroll APIs, and we're actively working on that. And I know there's requests for webhooks, and that's still in development. My first aha is, sometimes it's taking us a little too long to get these things out on our roadmap. So, working with the engineering team, I want to make sure that the needs of third-party developers are really, appropriately represented while we're building our products. So I want to fix that. We shouldn't have to wait, a year plus for functionality to come out. And that's something that I'm working with, my team on how we can do a better job at, with our roadmaps, and also, kind of reducing that time to delivery on some of these features.
So do you think, when talking about reducing time, right, to deliver these things, I know to some extent, like the V2 and the V3 APIs from QBO were built on top of QBO. And so can you talk about what the difference is going forward with the V4 APIs, and in theory, how that'll help speed us getting APIs into the hands of developers?
Yeah. So when we look, if you unpack Brad's vision, it's basically, all the APIs our internal developers are using should be available to third-party developers. And QuickBooks wasn't built that way. V3 APIs were really built on the side so third parties could integrate, but they didn't get the same usage, internally. What we're trying to do with V4 APIs is actually we've now created a full backend, and separated the front end, which is now JavaScript based. So to do that, we actually have APIs that our front end JavaScript offering is calling into the back end platform, and that's what we want to start with V4, and build on those, so that way we can actually extend those out across accounting, payroll, and payments, and then get them out to all developers. We're starting to do this in parts of the product today. So if you look at the way we connect to bank feeds and download transactions, that's the first part of our V4 APIs. And our new payroll product and platform we're actually building in V4. So the good news is V4 is going to be way more comprehensive. It's actually going to get you access to all of the entities and all of the data. And it's on the roadmap, for delivery. I don't want to actually commit to a date at this point because I don't have the final roadmap yet. But the intent is it'll be very comprehensive. But at the same time, we're trying to build a bridge back to V3, so that if you're using V3 today, when V4 comes out, your apps should continue to work with very minimal investment.
It's really exciting, the V4, because I think me coming back, going to my old QA roots, right, is the amount, like, something changes in QuickBooks Online, and then we don't know it broke the API until after the fact, and and then there's support tickets that come in, and then now some of the dev relations team, it's just like this big cycle and churn. But I think with the V4, it's like, hey, if something gets changed in QBO, it affects everybody all at the same time. There's never this like chase it down game, which is, in theory, things shouldn't break because it'll get tested because people are using the same API that the developers are using. So it's actually really, really exciting, I think, long term to get on that stack. I'm going to pause here, Vinay, and just any of you that are watching live, please open up the Q&A panel, ask any questions you'd like for Vinay. I will relay those back, and we'll get your questions that you may have answered. I'm going to jump down. I did get a couple questions some people in our community submitted to me, either via email, et cetera, and I'm going to jump. They might be a little scattered, Vinay, but I'm going to kind of jump around and ask some of these other possible questions. One that I thought was really interesting is kind of, you talked about our APIs, right? And, payroll APIs, webhooks, some of those technologies. What do you think about like open source libraries and kind of working more closely with the open source community that might help us get developer tools that the devs need faster?
Yeah, definitely. So back in my Sundays, I actually had a project in Apache. So Apache Tomcat, that used to be our servlet container. It was a full open source project where the source was in Apache project. We
All
had
right.
committers, and we actually pulled that back into our own products. So I've seen the power of open source. I've worked in the community. One of the ideas we've been kicking around is you know. Internally, we have a new widget library for our Harmony UI widgets. We plan to bring that to
Okay.
the third-party developers. Platform is more than just the APIs. It's all the services, the UI, the widgets that we want to extend and deliver so it's easy to build apps. One of the ideas we've even been thinking about is could we actually open source that so we get contribution from the community. I know for one of our SDKs today, I believe it's the PHP SDK. It is actually written by, we have one that has been received so-so, and I think there's a better one that has come from the community. So I know the open source can definitely accelerate things.
Got it. Cool. Um, let's see. Here's maybe this would be a good. What do you think is most important to developers, and why? You being an engineer or developer yourself, like what's most important?
Yeah, so long time ago, I actually had my own startup. This was, it was a small gaming company. We were building on the Apple platform. It was the Apple 2GS, if you remember that. It had a windowing interface just like the Mac, and it had color. I was in part of the Apple developer program. What I got from them was, monthly updates on their APIs, developer docs. I actually had they actually helped us learn how to market and create like end user license agreements, and this was back in the desktop days. So like how to package stuff, and there was a lot of support beyond just writing code that I loved from the developer program. It also created a sense of community. Now, the thing that I wanted for my company is, I've invested in this platform from Apple. I'm building a product on it. Can I make money? At the end of the day, I want customers. I want a channel. And if you look at the iPhone these days, the App Store is great because you can publish an app. You can get distribution. You still have to market it, but people pick a platform based on do I have access to customers? How easy is it to publish an app? Once it's published, how easy is it to create awareness? And that's one of the things you'll see, in our partner program is beyond just developer docs and APIs. We actually want to help you market your app. We want to, we have an app store that you can publish in, and as you grow, there are more touch points into QBO that become available. The nice thing about QuickBooks Online is it's actually growing pretty rapidly. So if you look at us today, we have over 1.2 million, paid customers. In the US, we're growing, 40% year over year, and globally, we're growing like 100% year over year. So then it becomes a really attractive channel for apps.
And I think that the really attractive thing about those numbers, it's 80% new to the family, right? Like
Yeah.
these are people that are new businesses. They have not picked, somebody that's an established business for 10 years and they've been a QuickBooks customer for a long time and they switch to QuickBooks Online. Chances are they've picked any of their third-party solutions. They already have them. But 80% new, that's just 80% new people that haven't picked anything. It's just free game, the level playing field for everybody to go out and capture, like you say, ultimately the money.
Yeah.
That's cool. We do have some questions actually coming in from the audience, which is great. If you're ready, I can. I think actually you're just going to say something. I'm sorry.
No, go for it, David. I'm ready for the next question.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is a good one, and I think this is going to be a kind of a test. I know the answer to this question, but this will be kind of your test, your knowledge of the whole kind of end-to-end workflow for a developer in our system. This is actually a question from Flow Rev Manager. It is who's actually new and actually attended the a new eyeball and a new audience. But here we go. I'm going to read this. Would love to hear your advice for potential partners starting to integrate with QBO. What is the most efficient path?
So the first thing to do is actually sign up and register on our developer portal. And then you get access to our materials. We've got a sample app up there for time tracking. We've got a sandbox. We've got our developer APIs. We actually have some sample code there, and you can get started. Then you join our. So I'm actually piloting this myself, as a customer. So I'm one of our registered developers. And then as you get started and you get ready to publish, there are two things that we look for in the publishing process. We do a technical review, and we also do a security review. And if you look at publishing to Apple's iPhone, they have a similar process where you review apps. And the goal there is, as apps get integrated into QuickBooks, we just want to ensure that everyone has the same bar on quality. And then these days, there's just a lot going on with security and fraud. So we want to make sure that the best coding practices are in place. And then once you publish, you're out on the App Store.
Cool. I actually have a blog post, which is like a 2016 guide to publishing it, building a small business app and publishing it onto our platform, and it has every link and everything that you need in it. I just shared this through the showcase, so if you're viewing this externally, that should be a link that now appears as something you can click on. Hopefully that answers that question for you. If you have any additional, definitely please ask again. Questions panel's loading slow. Actually, do have another question. This comes in from Jack with AAA Techs. Will the V4 have a .NET SDK? And if it does have a .NET SDK, will it have good documentation? I think sometimes there's a ripple effect of documentation for the API, the REST API, then documentation for the SDKs. I think where Jack's coming from on that.
Okay, great. So Jack, two-part question. So the first part is we will have a .NET SDK. Even we track usage of our SDKs today, and probably half of our traffic is to our .NET SDK in terms of downloads. So we recognize that .NET developers really want the SDK. We will have that on V4. The second part of the question is our developer docs, and that's an area I know that we could do better at. And it's something that I've actually invested some more resources in terms of additional doc writers onto Lori Freiley's team. So it is an area we are investing in and want to do a better job at.
Got it. FlowRev Manager actually just said, hey, thanks, Vinay. And then also said, as a kind of an additional question, what should expectations be from start to finish? ? And then he said, regards, Kamal. And he said he's ex-Sun also. So he's a former Sun employee also, apparently.
Oh, great.
So I guess he's kind of like what the expectation should be from start to finish.
Yeah, so that's actually a great question because one of the things that I've asked about is, what does the actual developer experience look like? So, from start to finish, there's the first part of like onboarding to our, APIs as you get started. What does that first time use experience look like? As you're writing your app, what does that ongoing use experience look like? And then as you're publishing, what's the publishing process like? One of the things that we're going to do is actually roll out a Net Promoter survey to our developer communities. Net Promoter is something we use internally to measure, what customers think of our products. If you think of the platform we have, it really is a product, and I actually want to hear from you guys about what it's like getting started. As you're building your app, what are the things that are either getting in the way or that you love that are helpful, and then as you publish, what is that process like? The other thing I want to look at is actually time, to get started before you write your first hello world, and then even the time to actually publish, because those are the two things that we can really influence in terms of developer docs and our onboarding processes to the App Store. The time it takes you to build your app is something that's a little bit out of our control. But like, one of the apps published last year actually did it start to finish in about 3 months, which is probably a bit of the it's probably about the fastest you can go. Typically is about 6 to 8 months. I would like to figure out where we can shave time off in that. And my theory is it's more around as you get started, having the right developer tools, and then automating some of the publishing process. So that's actually a stat we track right now for the average time to get through the technical review and the security review. So one of the things, Lori Fraley leads our developer relations tool, and it's a group that David's a part of. We're trying to figure out, how do we automate that? How do we actually have more resources to make that process simpler without compromising any of our standards?
Yeah, it's interesting to use the word resources, because I think that's like, we have that pain on our side, right? Like, what do we build next? What do we work on next? We have resource constraints, and I also see the same on third-party developer side. Sometimes I feel like I'll talk to a developer, in a year later, they finally scope out we want to get the QuickBooks integration is in our backlog. Our customers want us to integrate with QuickBooks. We intend to do it, and they talk, and then, oh, it missed this iteration. It missed this iteration. But it's interesting. Like, a lot of times I'll talk to developers, once they actually get it into their iteration and they assign an engineer on it, it's not that long. Like, sometimes I know Zen Payroll, which is now Gusto, it took 6 months of them talking about it. Then they finally put an engineer on it, and it took them about 4 weeks. And then another 4 weeks to go through the tech review, et cetera. But it's resources. I mean, that is just a huge challenge, I think, in general for us and the third parties themselves. Do you have any, I guess this would be a thought, like, do you have any thoughts or ideas, because you actually had your own startup, like, is there any tips on managing the resources or prioritizing? What's your thought process on that?
Two things. I mean, it's really about, priorities are driven by what do you think you can get out of the integration. And I think one thing that we can show is, what's the value from the QuickBooks integration? And if you do integrate, are you going to get either more customers, or will it help you convert your customers? So I think there's the business aspect of it, and I think we can help, show the value of it. The second piece is the actual amount of time to get started, learning curve, and do we actually have more ready to build or ready to use components beyond just the APIs? So, last calendar year, my team on the engineering side on QuickBooks, we started creating a widget library with all of the components like money bars and drop downs and lists and tables, and it really helped us accelerate our own development practices. So we're rolling that out across our small business engineering team. And one of the things I want to do is actually get that out into the hands of third-party developers, because anything we can give you to accelerate and reuse will actually help you write apps faster.
That's awesome. That's cool. Because I mean, ultimately, I think that's where people, when they prioritize, if they're like, oh, it's going to take us this much, well, we have these other 10 things we need to do. It's hard to commit to a big story like integrating with QuickBooks. So if it's all off the shelf and it's just faster, the integrations will happen that much faster. That's awesome. We did get another question or follow-up from Jack. Now that you've talked about the V4, he was definitely, when can we start playing with V4, the XML and the .NET SDK? So people are salivating for the chance to get their hands on that.
I'm not ready to give a date on that yet. Just in terms of probably timeline, some of our new payroll stuff that we're building is on V4. So we actually might have payroll, available sooner as a beta. And then parts of the accounting API are on V4, but we're probably not as far ahead on that, on the accounting APIs. So, expect later this calendar year, some stuff coming out in beta, but I don't have a date yet when we say, okay, V4 is going to be officially cut over, but, I would expect that would be, next calendar year.
Cool. I think it would be exciting, like maybe at the QuickBooks Connect hackathon, like whatever, like whatever's done, maybe it's not external and finished, but maybe to let developers come to a hackathon and play with the new API, the V4 API, right? And just kind of, hey, get your fingers wet, play with it, tell us what you think. That'd be kind of exciting if we, that's what, in October. That'd be exciting to, it's just a slide saying it's coming, or you coming out of Hangout saying it's going to be cool to let people start just touching it. It'd be really. I'm excited. It's a big deal. It'd be great to see that get done. No new questions are coming in. I do have one that I had from yesterday. What are some of your favorite apps? Like not apps that integrate with QuickBooks, but in general, like apps that you use on a daily basis to get your business done per se.
Yeah, so I'm looking at my toolbar on my Mac. I have my usual assortment of office productivity apps, but I also have a few things. I still have Xcode on there, so that's more of a weekend hobbyist thing, with Swift. But then internally, we've been using Slack quite a bit. So I know like our business development team uses Slack all the time. And then even for my boss's staff, I report to the general manager for small business. We have 3 Slack channels internally. One for staff meeting topics and agendas, another thing for innovation happening around us, and then just a third for like random chats, jokes, funny things. So I've over the last year, I'm becoming an increasingly bigger Slack user. I was at an external conference last week, and everything was on Slack in terms of the topics, the sessions, and then just various. It's a great tool. I'm also a big Evernote user. I've gone pretty paperless, 3 years ago, and so all my stuff is on Evernote. We use a lot of Google Docs and a lot of Box for file sharing. I love Wiki. So everything internally in my teams we've had on Wiki, because it's a great collaboration tool. It's a great way to track and disseminate information. So we're a big Confluence user.
Cool, awesome. Let's see here. This is actually a really good one that came in actually from another internal employee on the team. What do you foresee as your biggest challenge now as the leader of the Intuit Developer Group?
Yeah, and probably 2 challenges. One is really time to market for some of our new APIs, our new platform. There's a lot of interest, as well as some gaps that we have to address. How do we actually get those prioritized so that we can get them out in a timely manner? And that's more on the developer efficiency side. Really, how do we make third-party developers more efficient as they build their apps? And then the second part of that is, I've walked in the shoes of small businesses trying to build a company around a product, on a platform. So how can we actually help our third-party developers actually grow their business? Because ultimately, if they're successful, we're successful. So really thinking about how do we help folks either through marketing or natural attach points into QBO, where it's not just selling you an app, but it's more natural discovery for a small business customer. And so that's something we're actively thinking through.
Got it. And so if people want to connect with you, probably one easy way would be Twitter. And your Twitter handle is
Vinay S. Pai. S is my middle name. Sadananda, but like Vinay S. Pai is my Twitter handle. I do blog occasionally as well, so you'll see some of my blogs on our developer hub. And then also you can shoot me an email as well. So.
All right. And if any developers want to meet you in person, if I understand correctly, you're going to Scaling New Heights in May?
Yeah, I will be at Scaling New Heights.
Okay, got it. And any other appearances local in the Bay Area you'll be at that people should take note of? Any other conferences, speaking up? Like, is there anywhere else you'll be out there in the community?
Nothing immediately scheduled, but I do plan to. I do plan to get out and meet some of our developers. So, in just a few weeks in April, I will be out in London and Paris. I think it's the week of April 18th. So, I will be out there to meet some of our partners in the UK and in France.
Okay. Oh, exciting, exciting, cool. So we'll just, I mean, and to some extent, that's our team's job, right? Is to outreach and get you out there more. So we'll definitely, this is a start of that. People will get to meet you at Scaling New Heights. You're going and traveling to the EU region to meet with those teams. So yeah, we'll just continually get you out there. Before you know it, you'll be hearing from more developers beyond just T-Sheets, which I'm convinced, right, at this point. So that's really exciting. I think there's not a lot of new questions coming in, so I'll really let you kind of, any closing thoughts or remarks that you want to kind of leave the developer.
Yes. Hey, David, you're frozen, or maybe I'm frozen.
Oh,
okay.
You're back. Okay.
I'm back. So, I'm good now. Okay. We will solve our bandwidth issues before the next Google Hangout here. So definitely we'll fix that. So, we'll get these technical difficulties addressed. But, if I look at QuickBooks and the journey we've been on, there are always going to be parts of our workflow, different jobs that, on the Intuit side, we're never going to do. And actually, honestly, you guys are better at than us. So if we look at different verticals, or we look at e-commerce, we look at retail, we look at, different niche verticals and different industries, we're not going to have a focus on that. If we look at different workflow apps, if we look globally, there's lots of opportunity to integrate into the platform. And it's actually something that we're starting to look at as, these are things that actually make our customers more successful, our small business customers. So there's a natural opportunity in the small business space for a third-party developer to integrate into QuickBooks, and it's a great ecosystem. Over the last 2 years, we've seen almost a 10x growth in terms of number of developers working on our platform, the number of apps, as well as published apps, and actually QuickBooks customers using apps. So, there's a real opportunity here. What I've seen internally in the company is we've actually changed the dialogue quite a bit, where we used to have 3 stakeholders: customers, employees, shareholders. We've added a 4th stakeholder, which is really partners, developers, and accountants. So, and one of the things that we're in the midst of a big shift is towards becoming a platform company, where we're going to have products as well as open APIs and platforms. So it's a really exciting time, I know, in Intuit and with QuickBooks. And, one of the things, I want to personally make sure is that it's also an exciting time for you guys to work with us and, grow your businesses. So this is definitely a very symbiotic relationship. And I'm looking forward to coming out there to different meetups and different drink ups. I love craft brews and single malt. So we can talk open APIs over a beer sometime in the near future.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. We'll definitely, like I said, get bandwidth things resolved and have you on again. Maybe 90 days from now, maybe try again.
Oh, certainly, and even sooner if needed. I'm happy to talk to as many developers as possible, and this is a great forum.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Vinay. Everybody who attended or watching, even after the fact on YouTube, thank you very much. And we will see you guys next week. Next week will probably be open office hours. We do have a guest, trying to get some guests lined up for April. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Vinay, and goodbye, everybody.
Okay, bye, everyone. Thanks.